这些东西，HDD 啊，内存啊，然后螺丝刀呀、机子啊。
要不要说一下我们内存是什么规格？
不用说，别说。千万别说我们内存的规格。
然后就可以开始了。对，
因为如果他说因为我们的内存并不是很好，如果你说到规格的话，他会说哦，人类才这么那个吗？就说的。
开始拆。
就拆4个螺丝嘛。我想起来了。然后这个地方，我也会指一下这个，你就可以说小心一点，这个 FFP， 这个线容易断。就这样说，然后我们说，然后就开始加装内存，拿这个垫一下，不用垫这个，我们加装内存点。然后这个地方有2个口。这个装好了，这个装好了，然后找到这个硬盘，这个口，这个小口这个地里面去。对，盖上就行。这就是装好了。哪个？那个也是内存条，只不过这个机子里面原先有。这个暂停了。
today. This is the Larkbox X. It's the latest mini PC from Chewy, and we're going to take a look at it. Okay, let's start with the specs. This runs a Ryzen 7 3700U CPU, which has 4 cores and 8 threads, and a base clock of 2.3 GHz. And it does have a turbo clock up to 4. In terms of internal graphics, this has a Vega 10 GPU, so not the most modern thing in the world, but fairly decent. In terms of RAM and storage, there is only one option available, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM and 256 gigs of NVMe internal storage. And they did a pretty good job with connectivity here. It has Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and 2 different gigabit Ethernet ports. As far as display out capability, it has a DisplayPort HDMI 2.0 as well as a fully functioning USB-C port. And it ships with Windows 10 Home, but it can also run Linux as well. We'll show that off later in this video. They did a pretty good job with the packaging here. The user manual doesn't have a lot of good information, mostly just the labeling of the parts. Here's a look at the power brick here. I like that it's not just one big plug, but all the same, the entire power supply is relatively large. And so first impressions here, it does feel very nice and lightweight. In terms of general mini PCs that I've reviewed recently, this one's pretty small. The entire shell is plastic, so no fancy metal parts here. And I like the circular intake vent here at the top, but it is a little bit weird that the fan itself does not line up to that circle. And so depending on what angle you're looking at the top here, it can be a little bit odd. Not a lot going on at the bottom here, just a clip for the VESA mount. And I like the fact that you don't have to remove the rubber feet in order to get to the screws. On the front, it's nice and clean. We have 2 USB 3.0 ports, USB-C, headphone jack, and the power button. There's also a CMOS reset button if you need it. And on the back here, we have the power plug, dual gigabit Ethernet ports, DisplayPort and HDMI 2.0, and then 2 more USB 3.0. We also have the exhaust vent here in the back. Yeah, overall I'd say the design is pretty clean. And it's pretty lightweight. We're looking at under 400 grams. And it's relatively small too, as you can see here compared with Kerrygold butter. It's about maybe 2 1/4 butters altogether, not too big. Here's a comparison against an Xbox controller, so quite a bit smaller. Overall, I like the design and I do think that it would fit really well on somebody's desktop. My only design complaint is the fan isn't lined up here on the top. So let's open it up and see what we have going on inside. I did find the best way to open this up is to just use a little bit of leverage with that clip here in the center. And so here's how it looks. Initially, I thought there was space for a SATA hard drive, especially with that little arrow there. I thought maybe that was a way to plug it in, but no, that's just how to align up the clips when you put the device back together. We've got 2 4GB sticks here of DDR4 RAM running at 2666. And the device supports up to 32 gigs of RAM, so this is easy to replace. So now let's take a look at the NVMe card. Thankfully, this one is a known and reputable brand, but only 256 gigs. It's really a shame here that they didn't add SATA mounts for an additional drive. It does look like there are plugs here, and one of these might actually work for a SATA hard drive, but there's no hardware here to actually allow you to plug this thing in. In fact, the only other thing they package in this device is the VESA mount. There's nothing here for any hard drive mount either. And same thing with the manual here. There's no mention of adding an additional hard drive. It's really a shame. And so yeah, I think that's a pretty big letdown. They should have had an additional SATA hard drive mount here, because now you're going to be stuck with the internal storage or an external hard drive.